She was a bad one, a mean, mean girl. I never had one as pretty as that one, a mean, mean girl. Mean, 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 mean girl. I guess she's not the kind of love I'm looking for. Mean, 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 mean girl. Said I was the best, but there were many more. She was a big one, I met her at a gig one, a mean, mean girl. After the sick one, she was a quick one, a mean, mean girl. Mean, 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 mean girl. I guess you're not the kind that I've been looking for. Mean, 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 mean girl. Said I was the best, but there were many more.
From Milton Keynes, across the UK and around the world, this is CRMK Online.
Oh, that sort of brought a little bit of professionalism into the show, didn't it?
I think Bob dancing is a sight to behold.
It was a sight.
Yeah, my wife always says that.
Yes.
She says, you've got no rhythm.
Or blues.
She's right.
Mm-hmm. Now then, the days of heading to the kebab shop or the chippy after a few pints could actually be over.
Here we go. What's
Instead,
this?
No. Instead, drinkers will be able to order a takeaway without leaving the comfort of their own bar stool. Deliveroo is launching a scheme for pubs without kitchens to allow drinkers to order food straight to their local. The service could be a boon for establishments which have struggled to fight off competition from gastropubs.
Oh, that's interesting.
It would also mean that they could keep drinkers in pubs for longer by allowing them to order anything from a curry to a pizza with their pint. However, the pub trade body, the Federation of Licensed Victuallers Association, said the idea was fraught with dangers. Operations Director Martin Caffrey said, where the difficulty may come is when customers opt for strong-smelling food which could annoy other punters. Pub owners may find they need to regain control by only allowing certain cuisines into the premises. Deliveroo, which until now delivered for restaurants that do not have their own takeaway service, has decided to cash in on the opportunity after seeing increased demand for food to be delivered to pubs and bars. The rollout for the scheme, which starts next year, follows a successive trial with 20 pubs. The online takeaway firm has seen sales soar in recent months.
Raw in sales.
Australian, aren't they, Deliveroo?
Yeah, what's your favourite colour, Bliss?
Struth. I know you say that. I'm staying at a hotel on the way back from France. Well, it's in France next year, and it's at Le Mans, and they say that they've got 3 restaurants nearby that they work with, and they deliver your food to the restaurant, to the hotel.
I've stayed in hotels where they have a whole selection of takeaway menus, and you just
really they get them from outside.
Yeah, they don't have their own kitchen.
Yeah, well, these do this. They do this for you.
And
this particular one,
there's a phone. You just pick it up and it's directly into the takeaway, and they'll deliver it 10 minutes later.
Well, a lot of these sort of the Holiday Inn Express and things like that.
Yeah, things like that. Get a pizza delivered to your room.
Well, at Premier Inn, where at Folkestone, you won't want to eat in their restaurant. It's terrible. But they've got a McDonald's across the road, so you can bring that in.
Incidentally, my friend, if you're going to go to France, as you are next year, and perhaps you're going to learn French and everything else, when you go to that area that you just mentioned,
Le Mans, yeah.
No, it's not Le Mans.
Le Mans.
Le Mans.
I know.
There's no S on it.
Well,
there is an S on it.
I'm talking to English people.
Yes, but you talk to English people who are like me. I'm an English person and I'm highly educated, and I know that it is Le Mans.
Captain Manner. Yes, I'm going to go to the museum, the circuit.
Yes. If your wife lets you.
Well, I'm driving.
No. It doesn't matter. You know. I'm fascinated by this. I'm doing an Alan here. You know, I'm.
Go on.
What are you fascinated about?
It's about fake news.
Fake news. I love fake news.
Fake news?
Well, children are to be taught how to recognise fake news on the internet.
How?
Good.
Well, exactly. Earlier this week, Theresa May accused the Kremlin of spreading fake news and interfering in elections as part of an offensive to sow discord in the West. Now the government's culture department has said action needs to be taken in schools. A strategy document said it's important for children and young people to be aware that not everything they read or see or read online is real.
Yeah.
Now, children and young people. What about old people and adults and all the rest of it? I mean,
we're supposed to be smarter than that, aren't we?
What is fake news? I mean, how do you...
Well, have you seen the story I posted on Facebook today from Defence News Weekly? I believe it's from. And it's just opening. It's a leader story. Wait a minute, it's just still opening. Oh. Come on. It says RAF on high alert due to heightened Arctic cargo aircraft activity. The Royal Air Force will reportedly be on high alert in the coming weeks in order to track cargo flights from the Arctic region. The move has been prompted by an incident around a year ago in which a Typhoon aircraft escorted a Lapland registered aircraft flying from the Arctic region over the UK's major cities. The pilot of the craft was said to be under the influence of alcohol and very festive. This is especially dangerous due to the sheer volume of cargo the aircraft was carrying. This is expected to happen again.
Yeah, on December the 25th.
Yeah, great, isn't it? And that was in Defence Weekly.
Yeah,
which I think is great.
Yeah, so UK Defence Journal, beg your pardon.
It's good to see publications like that having a sense of humour.
Yeah, and I took it seriously when I first. Oh, hang on, where's it coming from? You know, you start to think, don't you? I thought it was very well done.
That's a lovely bit of fake news today. There's a picture of Donald Trump with his arm around 4 guys from the Ku Klux Klan. It's so obvious. I mean, it's not obvious.
Is he not a Klansman?
It's obvious to me. It's photoshopped, but perhaps not to the untrained eye.
That's the trouble, isn't it? You know, yeah.
But I think actually, you know, most people would spot the photoshopping element of it, but
I don't know. It
was cleverly done.
Look at some of the movies of animals doing various things. You know, you see now on Facebook. You know, animals putting their arms around other animals and all this sort of stuff. I mean, it is very subtle. Well, and this is the trouble with photography now. It's a lie, isn't it? Because you can put anybody into a situation that wasn't there.
Yeah,
I mean, the Nazis did it in the war, but I mean,
photos don't lie has got to be one of the biggest
lies.
One of the biggest mistakes anybody's ever made, because there is nothing easier than to fake a photograph. And nowadays, with modern technology such as Photoshop and photo this and photo that, really for a couple of bob and a laptop, you can make almost any image you like of anything.
But in the old days, it wasn't that easy actually to do it when you were having to process the photograph yourself.
No.
It was a slightly trickier thing.
The Nazis had that down to fine art. A funny story actually. I once did a Jewish wedding, and there was one of the uncles was a little guy, looked like a home pride flower grader with a top hat on, and the woman said to me, she was a German Jew, and she said to me, the mother, I want my other brother put on his body in the photograph. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't do that. She said, you can do it. The Germans did it in the war. Why can't you do it? You see? And I said, well, I'm not that skilled. I can't cut people out and put other people's bodies under hats and all this. I'm not qualified to do it, you know.
I had a friend of mine in America send me a photograph of herself and her son, and they were being photobombed. So it was a family photo.
Photobombed?
Yeah, somebody sticking their head up at the back of the photograph.
Oh, right, okay.
And she said to me, what can I do about it? And literally 10 minutes later I sent it back, and the head had gone. And she's going, that's wonderful. It took me 10 minutes.
Well, we had another one. We had a family, on a serious note, we had a family come into our studio when I was a photographer, and they left a space on the lap between the mum and the dad, and they brought in a picture of a child that had died as a baby that they had, and they wanted it retouched so the baby was on their lap in his family group, even though the baby had been died about 4 years. It was just in the early days of before digital photography.
Oh, right.
It was just the early days, but my lab managed to do it. But it was about £300 for the work to be done, and they did a very good job of it. And the people were very satisfied. I personally thought it was a bit bizarre, but if that's what the customer wants, that's what the customer wants. Yeah. There we go. Yes, Mike? Sitting here.
No,
I think we're boring him, Alan.
Well, you are, actually. I'm listening to the pair of you talking about a load of rubbish and all that sort of thing. But, hey, listen, this is going to cop it.
Should we pull his slider down?
No, you leave my slider alone. This is the way to do it. Guys,
how do we do it,
Mike? A chief constable, retired from the police after 35 years, was immediately rehired on a £1,000 a day contract, where his job was to find ways for forces to save money. He was the boss of West Midlands Police, Chris Sims, and he was paid £195,000 a year. And during his tenure, he oversaw £125 million budget cuts, with a loss of more than 1,000 officer posts, leaving the force with the smallest number of officers in its history. And last night, one insider said Mr. Sims' lucrative role proves the old boys network is still alive and well, because the month after he retired, he went straight back to work at the National Police Chiefs Council to oversee the programme recommending cost-cutting measures that forces could make. The initial contract was for 55 days' work over 6 months on a daily rate of £1,000. And now that period has expired. He is being paid £90,000 a year for 3 days' work a week, equivalent to £577 a day, along with more than £1,000 in expenses. This programme is being funded by the police and the Home Office. Mr. Sims, 58, is no stranger to headlines about his costs. Last year it was reported that he ran up expenses, including a £308 a night London hotel stay and £451 for a flight from Birmingham to Edinburgh during his time with the West Midlands Force. News of Mr. Sims' well-paid position and comes after ministers launched a crackdown on the generous pay and perks employed by police chiefs and demanded that retiring officers have any new job offers vetted by elected crime czars amid concerns of revolving door culture.
Well, this is typical of the public sector, isn't it? It's the same in the health service, isn't it?
The health service, education, all those, local politics, local authorities. I mean, chief executives move from one local authority to the other, usually after being fired or something. So the revolving door game is there in the public sector big time.
Well, when Blair was in government, they spent, I think it was £6 million on a conference on how to save money.
Well, I'm going to be a little bit of a devil's advocate here, because, Dame, whatever her name is...
There's nothing new there, though, is there?
The Vice-Chancellor of Bristol University, who's now decided to retire and give up her, whatever it was, £560,000 a year job or something. And then, the press, 4 times more than the Prime Minister gets and all that. So what? Branson gets 1 million times more than the Prime Minister gets. Dyson bloke gets more.
Yeah, but it's their companies.
Well, but okay.
They've got to take the risks.
Just let me finish this, because the Vice-Chancellor of this university went in there, she got this job. Some austere group of people,
some clowns,
it doesn't matter whether they were clowns or not, they decided that woman was worth that amount of money for the job. Now, I think if I went into a job, if I went to work for Mr. Mallyon's company, and he said to me, right, Mike, I'm very pleased to take you on board. I think you are exactly the person that we need in our company to further the advantages and
most
of the company, etc. No, this is all hypothetical. But then said to me, and I'm going to pay you £150,000 a year, and I turn around and say, oh no, hang on a minute, no, don't be silly, just pay me £25,000 a year, because I think that's all I'm really worth. Nobody does this. Nobody says it. So it is not this poor woman's fault that she's given all this money by the authorities who set the pay scales at the university.
No, is anybody blaming her?
And exactly. Of course they are. They've hounded the woman out exactly the same way as this ex-chief police.
Well, she doesn't do her job.
If he